All right. Hi, everybody, and
Morning.
good morning. Good morning. And I'm super excited to go through the 9 ways the millionaire real estate agent thinks. But firstly, I wanted to say thank you for your time. Bear with me as we go through this, and let's have this be interactive. Okay. Oh, thank you, Brad. Yes, and please have your MREA book. So definitely, like I said, it's going to be interactive and, chime in whenever you have a question or a thought. It's better that way than just to listen to somebody speak. So here we go. Like I said, we're going to be going over and having a discussion about the 9 ways the MREA thinks, and it's on pages 71 to 97, just to get yourself started. So I want you to start off here, okay? So let me move the peeps. I want to start off here, and as you can see, these are the 9 ways a millionaire real estate agent thinks. So if you can read these, and then let's just discuss what do you think is the most important one? So we have think powered by a big why, think big goals and big models, think possibilities, think action, think without fear, think progress, think competitively and strategically, think standards, and think service. So just chime in, take yourself off mute and let me know, what do you think is the big why? I mean, not the big why. What do you think is most important?
Well, now we know
Yeah.
her answer. But I was going to say number one,
Mhm.
first, because Gary always says the first and the last are the two most important things on any list he gives. But then, secondly, I think that if the purpose of business is to fund a truly perfect life, then we have to get clear on what that looks like. And really, at the end of the day, that's the big why. That's the thing that they want, that they're working towards. And so when we can then work backwards and say, this is what life looks like, and therefore, this is what my business looks like, we now have a paint by numbers model paint by numbers model to achieve any goal that the agent wants.
I
And,
love that.
and it all starts with how we think. Life is lived inside to the outside.
I love that. Does anyone else want to share?
I was also going to say, the big why. You got to know your why first before you can do anything else. So you can get your direction that you want to
Yeah,
go.
love it, love it. And I presume, Marielle, you're agreeing with Brian and Brad?
I do, yeah. Your big why is, that reminder of what drives you every day.
Yeah, yeah. Well, here's the thing. You know what? All of them are important. And yes, we want to definitely start off with, what is the big why? What are our agents' big why? And it's to think, what is your big why? So for an example, we'd say the day before vacation, right? Well, what's your big why? And we've heard this, we've heard it at family reunion, we've heard it, at so many trainings, but what are you doing before you're going on vacation?
Everything as fast as you can to get it all off your list.
Exactly, exactly. We're trying to get that done because we want to leave the office or finish my last showing because we have that big why. I am going to Hawaii, right? I'm going to Hawaii and enjoying the palm trees and sun. And it's just amazing. It's amazing what you put your energy into. Imagine if you put that into your business. Okay. Imagine if you put that into your business. And I just want you to think, other than going on vacation, what else motivates you?
Money and time.
Okay. Okay. That's good.
Hmm.
That's
I think that's a pretty valid answer for every agent.
Hmm.
sure. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I used to, back in my corporate days, have my team always coming to me and saying, I want to be promoted. Like that was their big why. I want to be promoted. I want to be promoted. And I would be so proud of them for wanting to do that and wanting to move forward. And I would then ask them, well, tell me, is there anything else you can learn with the position that you're in now? Okay. Do you think we ever stop learning?
No.
We don't ever stop learning, right? So we're always going to continue making ourselves better, and we're always going to continue thinking, how are we going to get to that big why? Because it's always going to be forever, ever changing.
Elise, I always say that we're either green and growing or we're ripe and rotting, and there is no in between.
I'll say that again. We're green and
Yeah,
growing.
we're green and growing or we're ripe and rotting.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's true. That's
I
very
like
true.
that.
I love that. I love that. Okay. So, whoops. You're right. Think by the powered why. Um, all right. So we actually already spoke about this, you know, what you put your energy into. And all right. Ooh, I'm ahead of myself. I also want to talk about the big goals and the big models, right? Do you think that that big goals and big models should be separated?
I think they go hand in hand like a puzzle.
You know, so Gary identified agents trying to separate it, yet it didn't work. Okay. So at the bottom of page 78, page 78,
Yep.
in the first paragraph, it says, if you have big goals, then to reach them, you will inevitably begin a quest for big models. Likewise, big models will drive you toward the achievement of big goals, even if it wasn't your intention. Stop and think about that. Right? I mean, what you're doing, it starts, you know, it has to be the big goals because inevitably, like it says, you know, you're going to get to your big models. So, you know, think about that as you start working towards creating your models.
Yeah. And
You know,
Elise, in Quantum Leap, we talk about the fact that it doesn't take any more energy to think big than it takes to think small.
yes, sir.
But when you think big, the compounding effect of blowing through, if agents plan their business from point A to point B and point B to point C and point C to point D, then by definition, to change getting from B to C, they have to reinvent what they're doing. But if you begin with the end in mind and you go A to Z,
We're going to talk about that, Brian.
yeah, so good. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
great. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. Thank you. So yeah, we're going to talk about that, but big goals guide you towards reaching your true potential, and big habits don't hold you back. Small habits do, right? So think about this. You know, we've all been around children. Some of us have had children. You have your nieces, nephews, and all of a sudden we're all at the dinner table like this, right? What am I doing right now? I'm slouching, right? How many times do you say, put your shoulders back, right? Also, Warren Buffett points out how habits are too light until they're too heavy. That was like, oh, that was so amazing because if you let bad habits go too long, right, then they're just so heavy. And it's pretty interesting. And I'll use that in a personal example of mine. I think most of you know I was an equestrian show jumper and I showed horses all around the country. Well, for the majority of my life, until, you know, that went away, I was like this the whole time. I was on the horse and you always had to have good posture. You always had to have your shoulders back. It became a habit for me because I had to do it every single day, right? So the more you do it, the easier it becomes with any of your habits. So, you know, I just want you all to just think about that. So let's go to page 80. Brian, let's go to page 80.
Got it?
So I want to discuss this, and pretty much, you know, Brian hit the nail on the head, okay, right here. Do you think you can achieve 80 million with the same habits you achieved the 2.5 million?
Nope.
So if you're looking at, I don't have but if you don't have it, it's here on page 88.
Yep.
Or 80. You know, so it's proven that why not create your habits for what it takes to be an $80 million producer, right? Instead of, just like Brian said, instead of reinventing the wheel. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah, because I think if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. So as soon as you know where it is that you need to be financially to be where you want to be in life, now we can build the model And
Right.
nothing else, everything else is a distraction at that point, and it's
It
just
is.
clarity around that. And the other thing that I would say on that is I think that again, I know this when we teach Quantum Leap that, you know, everyone says, well, I want to make $1 million a year, or I want to make $500,000 a year. And the reality is, if you don't know how you're going to spend it, you will never make it. And so for agents, the first time I sat down and did an economic model of a $100 million sales team, which I did at Mega Camp in 2011 when I was being recruited to the company, I sat at the airport and sketched it out.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Well, all of a sudden, now my brain could think about how many people and how many appointments and how much GCI and how much profit. And so for the agents to really, I think, get inspired sometimes by looking at what does that big goal look like, because they almost always go, oh my, that's easier than I thought. Like it's like one appointment a day, or it's, you know, 3 appointments a week.
No, I hear you. And guys, I jumped ahead a little bit, so please forgive me, but I did want to ask, what motivates you other than money? Okay. Just think about that while I continue on this slide. So Gary wrote, personal growth is ahead of a big why. This will pull everything ahead. And for me, when I read that and when I hear that, it's what I share when I'm having a recruiting appointment. It's what I share when I'm speaking with, you know, other agents. I compare this to when you are in culture, everything else will flow accordingly. Okay. You have the culture, you understand, you know, our family, the flow is going to happen. So, you know, we always want to be the best we can be, and, you know, reaching for the sky every time. So with that being said, go to, if you will, go to page 77. And just, you can complete the rest of it later, but if you can, fill out, you know, what is your big why? Okay. I'll just give you an example for myself. I said, leaving a legacy. Okay. Leaving a legacy for my son. He may not deserve it. No, but leaving a legacy for my son, the best that I'm able to do, right? My legacy is going to be different than other legacies for, you know, for the path that I chose, which I love. You know, I love what I do. I love the business that I'm in. And though here at Keller Williams, we have so many opportunities to learn how to leave that legacy. So it would be a good exercise. I'm sure most of you have already done this. I know Brian has for sure, and I know Heather has for sure. But you know, when you have some time to yourself, take a minute and give yourself a gift and start filling this out, because then the more you fill it out, the more you look at it, it's going to start to come to fruition. Okay.
That's a great team meeting exercise, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, that would be a great team meeting.
Okay. Oops. What's going on here? Stop. Oh, geez. Okay, sorry, I was on the wrong side. All right, let's go to think big and big models. So we started already talking about this, right? Do you think big goals and big models should be separated? So we did already start talking about that. So if we go to we already read that, but now let's just go to page 80. We did that. So I am way ahead of myself. Okay. It is just all rolling together. So does anybody though have any questions about this? Is there anything to add? Okay, awesome. I think Rebecca just joined us.
You know, I'm going to add one thing, Elise, and I think that I think that the world is set up for people to be average. And I think it's very common for agents to come to us and still be in average thinking mode. And I think a big part of what our job as leaders is to help them think, think powered by a big why, think possibilities. I know this is what you're talking about, because, you know, average is the best of the worst and the worst of the best. And I don't really want my people, nor do I want to be the best of the worst or the worst of the best. I want them to be at the top of their game. And I think that when you talk about legacy, you know, I've had the opportunity to be a team leader. And when I look back at my Des Moines office, almost all of our top 10 producers are people that I hired. And we've got two of them that are doing over 300 units a year, and one that I think is going to hit 400 units this year. And that's, that's legacy. That's to be able to see those people get
Right.
what they want is very rewarding.
And I think it's really upon us to work with our agents to help them with that, right? Because certainly if they've not been in the Keller Williams ecosystem, then they're not going to understand the language yet. And for us to help them and guide them, not give them the answers, right? But keep asking those questions so it can sink in like it does with us, right?
Yeah.
Like, have them truly understand the value of Keller Williams and helping them get to their big why.
Yeah.
All right, so, oops, what's going on? There we go. All right, so we're at number 3. This is think possibility. So very similar to what you were just saying, Brian, right? Some people think nothing is possible, something is possible, anything is possible. And, obviously nothing is possible speaks for itself. Something is possible. What it's saying is, if you think it, it will happen, right? Like the movie, if you dream it, it will come. So Gary's mother would often say, quote, where there's a will, there's a way. If you want it badly enough, if you have a big reason, sorry about the typo, have a big reason for achieving it, then you'll figure it out. Now listen to Gary, what Gary's father would similarly say. Necessity is the mother of invention. So now let's think of that movie, Castaway, and Tom Hanks. What do you think was his big why?
To survive.
Getting
Right?
off the island.
Survive and get rescued. Get off that island.
Mhm.
And who was the driver for that?
Wilson.
Do you think-
No, I'm kidding.
Okay,
A little
in the
bit.
book, you would think that it was Wilson, right?
Going.
Yet, what didn't he open up? He didn't open up the Federal Express package with the wings because he wasn't going to open that up until he was rescued.
That's cool.
It was like, boom, like, we all would say Wilson. Hey, Wilson, he's my buddy, It was that package. So believe in the possibility of rescue. Okay, he wasn't going to open it until he was rescued. So those who survive and those who perish is the ability to believe in possibilities of rescue.
Wow.
That gives me a couple of chills.
That's
you know?
powerful.
Yeah.
That's very powerful.
So I found that really, really interesting.
Well, and Elise, I think one of the ways that I think about this is, and again, I talk about this when we're in Quantum Leap, is when we're like 6 or 7 or 8, what do we want to be? We want to be the president. We want to go to the moon. We want to, like change the world. We want to do something crazy. But when we get, and we have
My son said NBA player, but okay, go ahead. And
and then when we get,
he's this big, but anyway, go ahead. Yeah.
When we get to like 40 or 50, because at 7 or 8, we don't have a lot of resources and ability to do that. But when we get to like 40 or 50, when we have all the resources and all the ability and the skill and the wisdom, what do we want? And I see most time they want a 4% cost of living raise.
Yes.
Like we get older and our dreams get smaller. And so I think that's where we have to give our people permission to dream. And I think that's where the friction of life, the friction of business, the friction of the world telling us we need to be average comes in. And we have to really be on guard to help our agents think differently than that.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And that's why they're coming into this business, right? Because you're an entrepreneur. This business isn't going to just say, okay, you did well and reached your goal, so here's a 4% increase. They have to do that. They have to procure that. So I hear you. All righty. I'm going to stop here. Does anyone have any questions so far? No? Okay. Well, then I'll keep going. So we're now on number 4, think action. Do you know people, I can tell you I do, but do you know people who get ready to prepare and to prepare and to prepare, and I have to do this before I have to do that? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure y'all are thinking of somebody in your head. So I'd like to say, believe in yourself and take action. Stop, Mike. Did you see that? Drop my. We all should be taking positive action toward our big goals every day by creating models, right? So then what does that do? That's going to help you to systemize your models, have your consistent actions. That's already going to be set. So when you have, and you're taking the right action, your business is going to have that model that's going to consistently play out. You're not going to have to each time recreate the wheel because you are creating this. Yeah, and when and it's also going to help bring you focus. So when it's done consistently, you're going to you're going to add value to your business. This was a short one. I know, like, we've been going on about others, but I thought, think action speaks for itself.
Yes, it does. And I think that talking about that, you're right. I mean, when I think of agents and business, there's a difference between on the activities, right? Because you're productive or you're busy, right?
Right.
So what kind of action are you taking and what results is it producing?
Correct. And that's what's really important. You want to do the proper actions. You don't want to just fill your time, right? You don't want to prepare, right? Just to then say, oh, it's the market. It's the market. So, we should just all always keep that in mind and be mindful and kind of, identify who are those folks and try to have those conversations that are going to click them out of it, get them out of it and just really, do what the actions are supposed to be. So I'm just looking here real quick. I mean, I have so much, but I can't take all of the time. I really liked this chapter. And, I think I was supposed to present this. It's really resonating with me and getting me pumped. So,
Elise, if you want to take a few minutes to elaborate further, we can always go faster through the other ones.
oh, I'm just saying the whole thing, the whole chapter that I was reading, just, all of, yeah, it
Cool.
really, and I think it would with everybody. It's just like we're doing, and I'm really happy that we're doing this. It just brings it back to you. It reminds you, I think we all sit here saying we know what we're supposed to do, and yet we have to sometimes motivate ourselves again, and that's okay. It's just being able to be aware of that and taking the action to ensure that you are remotivating yourself.
Which the focusing question, if at any given moment we just ask ourselves, what's the one thing I should do right now, such that by doing it makes everything else easier, unnecessary. God, it's crazy because I just said that and the thing popped into my mind that I'm like, that's the next thing I need to do. So there's tremendous power in that question.
Oh, golly.
Which leads to the action.
It does. I mean, this whole book is amazing, has incredible power. All right. Well, I think we're good with this. So we'll talk about think without fear. Again, this resonates so much with me. Okay. I'm going to read on page 85, the bottom. I'm going to read, interesting enough, one of the big obstacles for most people who want to think action is that they set out actually to take action. They cannot think without fear. They start to move forward, stumble into some obstacles, and find themselves paralyzed into inaction by the specter of failure. And then fear of failure itself becomes our primary fear. It can be interesting. I mean, it can be arresting, pardon me. It can stop anyone in their tracks. Has anyone experienced this themselves?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think to be human is to experience this.
Golly, I mean, I can tell you, I do. And I'll be a little personal, is that since I started real estate, I should have gotten my sales license, right? I have the fear because I know I'm not the best test taker. I'm good on, hands-on, yet I have just that, even just talking about it, I get butterflies in my stomach. So, that was pretty personal to share, yet it's, it's a fact for myself. So, I also want to read the quote on page 86. There is no failure. You win or you learn. Either one is okay. This whole time I was like, "Ooh," it was powerful.
Yeah. Well, so two things. One, when are you going to sign up for K-Score?
Well, and I have I was going to do it with Magnolia. I have the book at home. I mean, trust me, I am my worst critic, not my worst
Well, there you
critic.
go. So it's the Mel Robbins 5, 4, 2, 3, or
Right.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Like
I
that's it.
know.
But
Now I'm in trouble. Now
well,
I know I shouldn't have shared that with you guys.
no, that's great because now we can help hold you accountable. The funny part about that though is that people do think that they, especially agents coming into the business, they don't want to fail. And the reality is when you see a successful person, you see a really big failure. They have failed over and over and over, and they just thank the teacher, learned the lesson, didn't make the mistake again, and move forward. And then all of a sudden, they're a 7, 10, 15, 20-year overnight success story.
It's amazing. It truly is. What are you saying? I'm a success story, or I will be a success story?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just you put in the work, you do the grind,
I'm
you get punched in the
teasing.
face, all those things happen, and then all of a sudden, you wake up and you're like, "Holy cow, how did I get here?" And you go, "Wow, that was a long, messy trail." And people think that the point from starting to success is this little squiggly line, and it's messy. Success is messy.
Yeah. So, let's just read this one slide here, right? The possibility thinker. You have to take action. Action may have some setbacks. Setbacks do not represent failure. Don't let them get in their way. Don't let fear of failure freeze you into doing nothing. Never fear the attempt, right? Never fear the attempt. Because how many times, and what is the saying we have here at Keller Williams? Fail forward, right? Fail forward. And I had to learn that because I was too much of a perfectionist when I first started here. And going back to our first TL, she actually, that's the first time I heard her, she goes, "It's okay to fail forward." And it would honestly take me the longest time to just send one email, right? Because I didn't want anything to be wrong with it. So, just think about that and help your agents with it. Like, let's get it done because you're learning from that experience, no matter what the outcome is. Cool. All right. Think progress. Again, this resonates with me. And I'm going to say, and I'm going to share a little bit in that quantity and repetition. Numbers equal results. And some of the examples I put here are K-score, lead generating, and more. So our K-score is not coming up, with the results that we need to have the right ROI on it, right? Because right now we don't. And so we had to change something. I had to change something because what was happening wasn't working. And so Marielle and I, we're a team, and we came up with a different way of getting more numbers, because that's all it is for K-score. Well, for all of this, it's in the numbers. And, some people try, but they don't realize it doesn't matter how many calls you make. It's it's when you get the results, then you've made the right number of calls. It's never going to be the same. So, it's okay to change your process. What we started doing is once we have the career night, then to the folks that didn't show up, that said that they were, we would put my calendar link, replying saying, "Sorry, you missed it. Please schedule a time." And it yielded so many more results by doing that. And we just started this, last week, Marielle, or 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, last week.
Yeah, last week. So it was a good reminder. It was a good reminder. And again, if you see here, an outcome to the MREA agent calls this progress. Right?
Mhm.
I think sometimes we tell ourselves that wasn't good enough. So let's just think, well, was there some sort of outcome? And give ourselves a pat on the back. Let us know and encourage yourself that there was progress.
Yeah, I keep it on my bookshelf and I reference it often, but there's a book called What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. And I would keep that available for my agents. And I actually had about 3 or 4 different little sections, because there's like a section on self-confidence and there's a section on like you breaking through your limiting beliefs. I would photocopy them and have them stapled. And when I had an agent that was dealing with something like that, I would just pull that off and I would say, hey, I want you to go take these home and I want you to like read these every morning. And a lot of people that came back and was like, wow, like I didn't realize just the power of those affirmations. But it's a cool little book.
I hear you. I mean, I need to do that with myself because I know I'm the worst on myself.
We all are. We're human.
Yeah.
Like we're human.
Yeah.
And so
And I just want to go back to something that we should be reminding our agents about. I think our newer agents that are joining, they're only going to know about skill-based, but we are in that skill-based market. And I wrote, if you're creating relationships and having conversations, you're going to see results, but you have to have them. You have to have the numbers. And I wrote a little note at the bottom for myself saying, I experienced this in K-Scores, and I just shared that with you all. So also think about a baby learning to walk, think of Rafael Nadal. What do they continually do? I've read that if Rafael Nadal had lost a match, that was over. He didn't perseverate over it. He didn't think about that again. He took and said, what do I need to do differently for the next match? And it's amazing the power of the mind for him to be able to do that. There's not many that can, because I think we all, kick ourselves in the butt and be like, oh, I shouldn't have done it that way. Or, maybe I should have had this type of conversation. But Rafael Nadal, all of the top athletes, all of the top agents, they just have to move forward. And I know it's difficult sometimes. I mean, hello. Y'all always hear me saying perseverating. So persistence and reputation equals results, and mistakes are progress. I didn't mean minus, I meant to say equals, mistakes are progress. Anything here resonate with you all? Have you had an experience that you can think of, and how did it, what were the results?
well, I think the baby learning to walk is a really good example, because I use this a lot when the little kid is starting to toddle and like starting to move around, and you're going, you got this, like keep going, and yet the kid's awkward and he falls, and we're going, hey, like you got this, stand up, yeah, little buddy, like let's go, and yay, you took your first step. And I think that we have to remember that this industry, if you agents want to be in mastery from day one, and the reality is that mastery is 10,000 hours, which if you spend 3 to 4 hours a day in very purposeful practice in your trade, it's going to be anywhere from 12 to 14 years before you've put in the 10,000 hours that puts you into that mastery zone. So I think helping our agents to really have the perspective that, hey, you're going to learn to crawl, and then you're going to learn to toddle, and then you're going to learn to walk, and then you're going to learn to run. And it's okay to make some mistakes. It's okay to mess up, because the reality is in real estate, unless you make a financial error and put 500 instead of 5,000, no one's going to lose a finger, an arm, or a leg. There is no life or death. We take our profession seriously, but you have to remember that you're learning something you've never done before, and that takes time.
Correct. Yeah, correct. I mean, and how many of us have interviewed an agent, or Marielle, with your restaurant, that an agent's coming in and they already know everything. I've sold several homes. Okay, great. Can I want to do commercial and residential. Do you think that's okay? Yet you provide your consult, they're not going to listen to you. So you have to stop and say, well, is this person going to be able to be in culture? Should they end up joining us, right? Are they going to be teachable? Should they end up joining us? I'm sorry, I didn't have this on silent. So I
You know,
just,
yeah, Elise, I was going to say, this reminds me, I had an agent that I hired. She was one of the #1 agents on our board, and she ended up being #1 agent in all of Keller Williams, and I think it was 2014. When Ignite started on the first day, I have a classroom of new agents, and I have her sitting in the back. And I said, hey, this is a back to basic boot camp. You're really welcome to join us. And, I'm just curious what brought you to Ignite today? Because I'm going, maybe she thinks this class is something it's not. And she said, well, it's real simple. She said, I know how to sell real estate, but I don't know if I know how to do it right. And I think this will teach me how to do it right. And this was a 242 unit a year producer. And I think that mindset of there's always a next level, there's always something else. Like I was really inspired by her that day, because that gave me a lot of insights into how she thought.
That's amazing right there. That to me is like a success conversation, because good for her, right? I mean,
Yeah.
That's huge. That's huge. So, cool. All right. Thanks for sharing that.
Mhm.
Think competitively and strategically. I was kind of chuckling through this. If you read the first sentence, it says, I found this interesting when Gary spoke about strategies are often found in the gray area in between rules. Okay. A low achiever, can we do it? A high achiever, well, why? Did someone say we couldn't do it? And people who live by rules live in a literal world. Some may say this about me. I mean, the gray area, having Gary Keller talk about the gray area is pretty interesting to me. And though it help, it also has you think of different ways that you can do that. You want to think competitively. So let's see here. So on page 91, I found it to be interesting. People who live by their rules live in a literal world. Strategic thinkers are exercising their creativity and living outside those limitations. When I think about great strategic thinkers, listen to this. I think about guys like William Candy Cummings, who in 1863 introduced the curveball to baseball. Imagine the scene the first time he threw a ball that looked just like a fat, slow, perfectly hittable ball until, boom, it drops off the table. Batters must have screwed themselves into the ground trying to hit it. And I bet they complained, saying things like, that's not fair. He can't do that. The rules of baseball precisely define the distance from the pitcher's mound to home plate. What constitutes a ball and a strike, and a half dozen other elements, but they never said the ball had to fly straight. Cummings understood that, and as a result, he is enshrined in the Baseball Hall of Fame. The game was forever changed by his strategic thinking. I love this book. It's just it makes you stop and it makes you think. So when an agent is doing a deal, clearly you have to you have to be integral, and you have to follow the rules. Yet let's still get that deal done. And how is that going to happen? So strategic thinking, we all do it every single day, right? We wake up and we're going to say, all right, we're strategically thinking what that day is going to look like. An agent's ready to go on a listing agreement. They're strategically thinking, yet they've already planned it because they are an MREA agent, right? They know what their value proposition is. So I sometimes probably have to think a little bit in the gray area. Shh, don't tell Ashley I said that. But any thoughts about that? And also when you go to work, and the page 92, the second paragraph. To get the most out of your career, you should have the same attitude as when you sit down to play a game. Think competitively and strategically. Start where the rules stop and challenge your competition to catch you. Catch you if they can. Who saw that movie? So, you know, when you play a game, when you're playing Monopoly, when you're, you know, going and playing a softball game, a soccer game, right? That's what you want to do when you're going and selling real estate. Truly be competitive, be kind, right? But be competitive. All right.
I think that's play to win, don't play not to lose.
Mhm.
I like it. Play to win, not to lose. Yeah. And I mean, to me, that's just a given, right?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people get in scarcity, and I think we all get there at times. And so you play not to lose, but playing not to lose is still playing small. Playing to win, all of a sudden the level that you think about, the possibilities, the actions, all of that start to change when you go, well, how do I play to win?
You know, I guess I didn't have a choice. Growing up, I had to win. Like my father, you know, it was not a pretty day if I didn't win. And so, I mean, he got better along the years. But I mean, at 10 years old, and then even before that, showing dogs, we had to win. You know, we were known to win. We were the Novics, and it just, no matter what, that was the goal. So, I guess that's why I say that's just a given, because it has been ingrained since I was a child.
Yeah, well, your programming matters.
Well, it does, 100%. You have the foundation to take you through your life.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Mom and Dad.
Yeah, I mean, and, I asked my sister about this, just in the play to win and the programming that you're talking about this. I asked my sister, because my dad always said growing up, there were four of us, I was the youngest, and he always said that I was gonna go the farthest, do the best. He expected more from me. I had to get straight A's and all that,
Right.
which I resented. I found out not too long ago that my sister also resented it. He's like, what are we, chopped liver over here?
Right.
But it also put it ingrained in me that now I have to go the farthest, I have to do the best, you know what I mean? And play to win, like we were talking about.
And it's
Well,
interesting what you said, because you're hearing that, yet you had no idea that your sister was resenting that, right? She was feeling left out and not being, you know, provided the same encouragement that you were being provided. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you.
well, I think this is where, one of the best lessons Diana taught me, and I say this often, Diana Kokoska, was no matter how someone shows up, see them with a number above their head that's bigger than it currently is. And when you think possibility, think possibility, think strategically, it's about helping them to lean into their potential and not settle for where they are today, because where we are today won't get us where we want to be tomorrow. And so being able to speak greatness into the agents, point out their successes that maybe they look past, point out their blind spots that are maybe holding them back through great questions. That's where we help them become a better version of themselves. And I always think about, I have a moment in my life where I had one person who probably in 1996 said to me, and I think I was 20 years old, 21-ish. He said, I think I was 20. He said, you seem like a guy that has your financial affairs in order. That one comment, by the way, I did not have my financial affairs in order, but the most powerful words in the world come after the words I am. And I was like, well, thank you, Brad. I appreciate that. That means a lot to me. And then that led me to just suddenly become, my programming became, I'm someone who takes care of money, and I'm someone who builds wealth and has my financial affairs in order. And, that was your programming was your dad. Mine was just someone that was a casual bystander that just made a comment that changed my life. So we can be that casual bystander for an agent and not even know it. And a decade later, they can go, or 3 decades later, they can go, hey, that thing you said to me impacted me. And that's the power of what we do as leaders, I think.
It is. It's very strong, it's very interesting, and similar to Rebecca with some, I guess you'd say, resentment. I was the only kid at that time that didn't have to go to college because I was an equestrian show jumper, and I was, starting to train for the Olympics, and I was going to go to the Olympics, and I was going to be part of the USA, team. All of these things were going to go abroad. And then my father passed away. So after that, there wasn't the finances. So what did I have to do? What did I do? I went back to college. And I would ask my mom, why didn't dad make me go to college? I just found that to be interesting. Okay. So let's talk about our standards, right? It's really very important that we're defining our levels of standards and holding and then our agents and ourselves holding yourself and others accountable to meeting or exceeding those levels. So when do you think and it's important to communicate them, of course, but when do you think, or why do you think agents or leadership hire their first assistant or employee?
Why they do or when they do?
Why do you think they have decided that it's time they have to hire their first assistant? And Brad, I see that you were gonna go ahead and chime in.
Because they want to, some want to have more time in their day, so they hire somebody to fill that paperwork out, or they want to, add more units and make more money.
Okay, no, I love that. And Brian, you were gonna share?
I was going to say, it's usually that they want some help and they're not good at doing everything. And so they get to a point of fascination or frustration where they realize that if they keep doing what they're doing, they're not going to break through the ceiling of achievement.
For sure. So both of what you and Brad said are accurate. And, when they decide it, they're at their wit's end, right? They're at their wit's end and they're like, I'm going to, scream. I'm going to pull my hair out. I need some help. And what do you think? I would say the majority of people may do. Who do you think they'll hire? Do you think they'll hire easily? Do you think they'll hire, your best friend's sister's daughter because you owed them a favor? Do you think they'll take their time? I mean, what do you think is the immediate reaction of when agents or leadership are going to hire the first time they're going to hire an assistant or employee?
I think the first time it's going to be quick, and then you kind of learn from your mistakes. Like, oh, I shouldn't have just hired my neighbor's daughter. Like, maybe I should have interviewed a few other people. But when you desperately need someone because you're, in over your head, or you feel like that's going to take you to the next level, you're just looking for somebody to fill, a work body essentially. That
No,
Marielle, someone's better than no one.
Yeah. Right, a body.
Wrong. When you do career visioning, and they used to do the exercise with the cost of a bad hire, it was commonly making a bad hire was commonly anywhere from like 800,000 to about 2 million of tangible and intangible impact. I think they just don't realize that losing a client because you've got an admin that has a bad attitude. I had a client that we did 52 units of business over the years. If I'd have messed something up early on in that client, that was hundreds of thousands of dollars we had never had because that got lost. And so I think that's where I think making sure that our agents are preparing before they're ready is really important because they're scared. It's unless you talk to 1 in 100 talent, you don't know what talent talks. Unless you've talked to 100 people, you don't know what 1 in 100 talent looks like.
So there's a couple of things to remember here is, the second sentence here, it's important that you communicate your standards. It's important that you inspect what you expect. And keep in mind, when you're hiring an employee or an assistant, they should be the conduit to doubling your business. Okay, so it's just if you have agents that say, okay, I think it's time, or they're at their wit's end, they're at the end of their rope, and you have to teach them the right model for them, for the next steps. Make sure that it's just not a quick hire, okay? Make sure that they are the right person, because it's better to have the right person and take a little longer than the wrong person, because then you're having to redo everything.
Mhm.
Awesome. Anything else here? Any questions? Any other thoughts?
Nope, I have a call at noon, so I'm gonna have to hop off in 4 minutes.
Okay, I'm going. Okay, I gotcha. Here we go. Think service. I loved how Gary wrote this. He said it's a servant heart, right? We typically say we have a servant leadership, but it's a servant heart, and most of our agents do lead with a servant heart. Our top agents can easily explain what services they will provide to anyone. It starts with your purpose. So you have a value proposition, which is a fiduciary commitment. Great service begins with a clear purpose. I had some typos here. A clear purpose. Agents can, sorry about that. I had a typo, have to fix it. I don't know what I was saying there. So the purpose is great service. It's a clear purpose. Agents can articulate why they should be hired. So for instance, with sellers, you want to net the most amount of money in the shortest period of time. Okay. These are MREA agents. This should never be a question for them. Buyers, you want, the right home at the right place in the right time with the least number of issues. Okay. When somebody asks you, that's what your answer is going to be. This is an MREA agent. So
Yeah, and Elise, I think that it's funny because I had never read the MREA, but when I was a new agent, I had been in the computer science world and we did flow charts, and I was confused about this big wonky buying a house thing because I had never owned a house, and I'm going, how does this all work? So I sat down and wrote out a flow chart, and at one of my first buyer presentations, I had listened to a Star Power or something back when they were on like cassette tapes. And I think I picked this language up and I said, well, I have a process that ensures that you find the right house and most importantly, in the right amount of time, so the least amount of inconvenience, and that you pay the right price. Are those your goals? And they were like, well, yeah, that absolutely. And I was like, oh, well, great. Well, then we're a great fit to work together. So let's sit down and talk about what your needs are. And it's funny because that became ingrained into the conversation I had with sellers, because it was, we want to sell your house for the most price in the best amount of time and with the least amount of inconvenience. And that inconvenience factor always kind of hit home. And then if they wanted to focus on, I would say it's a triangle. And if you want to focus on getting more price, then it's going to come at the expense of time and convenience. If you want time, you want it sold tomorrow, it's going to come a little bit at the expense of the price that we listed at. And that was a very powerful image for clients to get.
And it's so simple, right?
Which the best sales techniques are always simple. Keep it simple,
Exactly.
stupid.
Marielle, what's our motto this year?
What Brian just said, KISS. Keep it simple, stupid.
Right. Simple, right? Simple. That we're not overdoing things. So
Not reinventing the wheel.
pardon
When
me?
Gary said all things work towards complexity, and the key as leaders and agents is to keep it simple.
You know what my brother-in-law says, and I hope it's okay I say here? He says, dumb it down.
Yeah.
So, if you look on page 95, you can look at that graphic. I'm not going to go through all of this here, but these are these are listed for you, the top 10 service areas for a buyer and a seller value proposition. And looking at this graphic, it's a good resource to incorporate. To me, I was thinking of this when I was doing creating this, that this is a great graphic to incorporate into your onboarding, right? Let the agents see this immediately upon joining, certainly if they're a brand new agent. So take a minute, think about that, think about this possibly being added to your onboarding. And so if we look at page 96, here it teaches you and it tells you functionary and fiduciary. So can functionary do fiduciary? And can fiduciary do functionary? So let's start with the first one. Do you think functionary can do fiduciary?
No.
Correct, right? Because fiduciary is you place your client's interest ahead of others and your own. Functionary is a specific task relationship. So if you're also doing the fiduciary relationship along with, it's with high trust and feel, and you feel the total, you're responsible for the total outcome, you can also do the functionary. But if you're not a fiduciary agent, then you're responsible for just the specific tasks in creating that relationship.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that this can be a mindset, and yet, your state-specific brokerage laws and license laws can change the language of this in terms of how the types of agency relationship you have with your client. So I think it's important for agents to be able to separate those two hats of, do I have my thinking cap on, or do I have my brokerage agency relationship hat on? But I think it's a great concept to understand the difference.
Sure. This was fun. I appreciate all of you. Any ahas, any questions, any takeaways, anything you think you'll, start to possibly implement into, your days, implement into your models,
Well,
yeah, and if I can just say is we all know what we're supposed to be doing. And I think by doing this exercise, it re-energizes us and it has us reminding us, like, get to it, sister, don't drop the ball, keep it going, be better than you were yesterday. And I used to say that, I'm sorry, I always talk about when I was in corporate America, but seriously, when I would interview, it was a different world. So there was a lot of that going on. And I would let the candidates know that here we are looking for the people who are going to walk in every day wanting to do better than they did yesterday. And that, those, that's just where you have to start. So this is helping me, and poor Marielle now is gonna be like, oh no, what is she gonna do now? But this is what I got out of doing this exercise.
good. I love that. Well, I think just one thought I have on that is people think they have to be perfect from day one, and it's about progress over perfection, because the reality is that 1% better every day is 37x multiple at the end of the year. So you just have to go, what's the one little tiny thing I have to do today? And that creates a domino run. And I also think that, I lost my other thought on that. Here is my other thought is, I think, and I'll tell Rebecca this, and I'll tell Heather this, I think we need to scrap the MVVBP at the top of team meetings. And we need to go through these at the top of each team meeting. Like, this gets you into the right mindset. By the way, I think MVVBP is important, but once in every 2 weeks or 3 weeks, we touch on it and we focus on this. So that's my aha.
Thank you. And that's great. I mean, I'm hoping that it wasn't just me talking. Like, I really what I wanted to get out of it is for you all to have something resonate, and for you to take away and implement, in your day, as you move forward.
Yeah, I think you did a great job, Elise. So let's give her a round of applause. Good job. Good job.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Well, thank you very much. I'll pass it back over to you, Brian. Is there anything? Oh, there's one thing Mary Ellen and I wanted to talk about, if we can.
Sure.
What was it, Mary?
Let me, is it related to this topic?
No.
Let me pause this and we will go. There we go.